Speaking. I'm Randy Warren. Legally Speaking is brought to you by the Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys, GABWA. GABWA is a voluntary bar association that serves as an advocate for women and children and empowers our community. On today's show, I'm excited to chat with my colleagues from Aflac Legal, who will discuss driving value to a corporate legal department. Today's corporations need leaders in law departments to provide legal support that maximizes the competitive advantage while safeguarding the organization by mitigating risk. My guests today will discuss how they take on legal issues by offering dynamic and wide-ranging solutions with a highly diverse set of skills. They break silos, collaborate, and are efficient leaders. Today, we will talk with two individuals who deliver value and mitigate enterprise risk through strategic business partnerships and comprehensive strategies that support growth, efficiency, innovation, and experience, all done the Aflac way. Maisha Shaw is lead counsel for employment, where she and her team partners with human resource business partners for advice and counsel, where she and her team conduct trainings, investigations, handle all litigation matters related to employees. Larry Young is head of corporate transactions, where he provides strategic drafting, review, interpretation, advice, and counsel to Aflac Inc. and its affiliates in various transactional matters.
Thanks for having us here.
Maisha, will you please share with me your journey on being a leader at Aflac in the employment group?
Sure. So I have an interesting journey, and a lot of times you have these great plans. You think you know what you want to do, and the path changes. So I started off my legal career really starting doing criminal law for a very short period of time. Then I went to the Attorney General's office, and when I went to the Attorney General's office in the state of Illinois for the state, I wanted to do contracts like what Larry does. I was like, oh, I'm going to be this great state, transactional lawyer. But at the Attorney General's office, they put you where they want you. And they put me on the employment team. And I was like, employment? I didn't take employment in law school. I don't know anything about employment law, but that's where they put me. And when it comes to government, a lot of times, they baptize you with fire. So they put you right in. They put me right in there, and I just became an employment attorney, learned real quick, and started representing all the state agencies in employment matters. I was there for a few years, decided to go to a law firm. Went to a law firm, continued to do employment litigation at a law firm for a lot of the companies, large railroad companies, and other companies as well. And then really had the desire to go in-house. And so Aflac had an opportunity, and it's a great company. I went for it, and now I was in Chicago. And the opportunity was in Columbus, and I was like, wow, I've never lived in the South before. But I was like, it's a good company, let's see. I applied, I got it, and I'm here now. I'm very grateful to be here. I think it was really a great move for me. For the leader of the employment team, so I came in, and then through time was able to promote all the way up now to be head of the team. And I have a really great team here at Aflac.
Thank you, Maisha. Now, Larry, can you share your journey on how you became corporate transactional lead at Aflac?
Sure. So I'm originally from Beaufort, Georgia, so this isn't too far from home for me. So unlike Maisha, it wasn't a big adjustment, just a little bit further south. So really my journey started when I graduated from college, and I worked for Accenture for a time. And I really had some exposure to their attorneys there, and also some of the contracts that they handle and that they deal with for some of the clients. After that, I went to law school. Upon graduating, well, actually I got my JD MBA. Always knew I wanted to do transactional work, so I'm very fortunate to have done it. But at first, though, I graduated and worked for a private firm, and did not have much of a transactional type work there, but I ended up doing a lot of insurance litigation, so FDCPA, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and creditors' rights. So not a whole lot in the area of transactional law. So just network, put some feelers out there. Next thing I knew, I'm with Regions Financial Corporation, and that was where I really jumped in and started doing some transactional work. From there, I had the opportunity to move my family to Houston. We had 3 kids at the time. One was a newborn.
Wow.
And so when you tell your wife, who had just given birth about a month before then, that you're going to move to Houston.
I'm sure she liked that a lot.
Oh, loved it. It was great. So we moved from Birmingham to Houston. And then after that, that's when an opportunity popped up for Aflac. And Aflac's just an incredible company. So I knew that I had to jump on top of that. And I'm very blessed to be here. Similar to Maisha, got here and worked my way up through promotions. And now here I am, humbly sitting with you two.
Aw, too kind.
Thank you, Larry. I think that's a perfect segue because seeing you guys as leaders is inspiring for someone who's new to Aflac. So I'm going to change it up a little bit and ask about value. Maisha, how does your team drive value to Aflac in this changing legal landscape?
Well, the thing about the legal world in my space, in the employment space, is that it is changing a lot. Every time I blink, there's a new law. And Aflac is we're actually a global company, right? We are in Japan, we're now in Northern Ireland, and we're national. So in my role, I have to look at the legal changes throughout the entire country, which is a lot because there's local laws, there are state laws, and there are federal laws. So it's really dynamic and it's changing. So what we really try to do is make sure that we are doing what our company should do, is to stay on top, make sure we're compliant, we're doing what we're supposed to do and do what's right. So we just have to stay busy, stay on it. Be vigilant, make sure we're giving good advice to the company to make sure we're doing what's right. You know, some people give lawyers a bad reputation, like we're trying to find ways to like undercut or something like that, and that's not really the case at all. We're really trying to make sure that we as a company do what's right legally, and we, in my space for employees, that we do what is right for employees. And so we just work really hard to keep on it and stay attuned to all the different changes in the laws.
Thank you. And you mentioned about our global footprint. Larry, how do you encourage and foster an environment on our team for collaboration, given that we have a global footprint?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing with any team is having transparency, right? Being transparent about what the goal and what the vision is. Like Maisha said, you know, things are constantly changing. And so one thing for my team, I never want them to feel like they're working in the dark. So as much as we can get information and value from those business leaders so they can see what those goals are, it helps drive collaboration because we're leveraging one another's talents to be able to meet the goal. And I love what Maisha said is, you know, we want to make sure that we do those things legally, but what I do love about our group, and I'm very privileged to work with a group of people, we not only want to do what's legal, but what's ethical as well. And so sometimes those things don't always, you know, they kind of hit heads. But as far as working and being collaborative, being transparent, being open and honest, not being afraid to hear someone out. And I'm very fortunate to work with very talented and smart people. People a lot smarter than myself. I am been humbled by my team. And the one thing that I enjoy about them is that they feel like they can be heard. And I definitely encourage that because that is going to drive us to deliver even better value for our clients.
Thank you, Larry. Having worked with both of you guys, I think you both are brilliant. So I admire you all as leaders and as colleagues. I think that brings me to my next question about efficiency. Maisha, you lead our efficiency working group, and you do a wonderful job doing that. So I want to ask you a very tough question.
Okay.
How do you galvanize a bunch of lawyers to work efficiently and
Right.
stay on task?
Right. Well, thank you.
Ooh.
All right.
Wow.
So there's a quote that I love, and it says that time is the most valuable, non-renewable resource, right? And I feel that, like, I grew up in church, and you know, you're sitting there and you're starving, and the service is going on and on, and then the preacher goes up and he preaches or she preaches, and they're going on, and the preacher will say, "I'm almost done," and then someone in the audience is like,
Keep on.
keep on, Pastor,
Come on,
keep it
Pastor."
going. And I always look around like, who's saying that? No,
Don't eat
Pastor,
my-
wrap it up. Be efficient. efficient with your message, right? So, I mean, that's just a funny example, but that's a reality, period, everywhere you go. People appreciate when you're prepared. They appreciate when you really respect their time. And so when I lead the efficiency group, that's really what I'm trying to stress. Let's be respectful of everybody's time. Let's really be respectful so that people can get what they need to get done in an efficient way. And if we're just wasting time and just, it's not respectful. And two, it doesn't allow us to get the work done that we are all hired here to do. We are hired here to serve this company and to provide services for them. And we really need to get that done. So the more efficient we are with our working groups, the more efficient we are in how we do things, the better value that we can bring to the company, the more I think happier we will be in how we do our work because we're not wasting time and we're able to give a better product at the end.
That's awesome. I mean, I know we had an amen corner. So I think that brings us to a question dealing with faith. And I'm going to pose this to you, Larry. How are you a man of faith in an environment like AFLAC? How do you let your faith shine in such a dark area sometimes when you're dealing with very hard contracts, very difficult people? How do you let it shine?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing is I look at the example that we have in Scripture. I look at Christ, and I think the servant leadership. And I love this verse that says, there's no greater love than this, and for a man to lay down his life for his friends. And I think you best shine is when you're serving, when you're, if y'all ask me to wash your feet, my wife might have an issue with that.
We won't ask.
But you're right. She don't have an issue with that. But I think it's coming in that spirit, right? With my team, I want them to know I'm in it with you, right? And I don't want them to ever think I'm in some ivory tower and I'm disconnected. But the best way for them to serve AFLAC is for me to serve them. And that's going to mean, sometimes doing things you may not want to do. I heard one quote from Puff Daddy. I know Jesus and Puff Daddy.
Hey,
It doesn't get any better than that. So, but he said, sometimes I do things that I don't want to do in order to make myself and others successful. And if my team is successful and if they are successful by me serving them, indirectly it's going to benefit me somehow. And I'm not saying I'm in it for that, but I think that's the first step, is to be a servant leader and walk in humility. And that means sometimes doing things you don't want to do, but you do them. So
that's great.
Thank you, Larry. I think both of you all walk it like you talk it. And that brings me to a question for you, Maisha, about how does your team maintain high standards and ethics? Because you're in this HR employment space. How do you ensure that your team is executing that?
Yeah, so integrity is key and number one for me. Earlier in my career, I had experience in situations where, and hey, you come from a law firm, right? Like, if you go this way, maybe you could win the case, but is that really the ethical? Is that the way of integrity? And I always live by, the mantra of do whatever you're doing if everyone can see you. So even if no one can see what you're doing, operate in a way as if everyone can see you. Make sure you're operating with integrity. And that's what I live by. At the end of the day, I want to be able to sleep at night. I want to be able to say that even if I lost a case, even if I lost even my job because they didn't respect the value of integrity, and that's not at AFLAC. But even if I did, I know, go back to faith, who I serve, I know what is important to me, and ethics and integrity is that. So as a leader, that is what I instill in my team. I let them know the reality is sometimes mistakes can be made. Sometimes, we may not win that case. But you've got to look at the bigger picture, okay? So you may lose that one little battle, but we got to win that war. And how you do that is making sure that there's never a question in how you operate. There's never a question with integrity or ethics, that we do what is right. And that is really going to win at the end of the day.
that's right.
You guys have touched on ethics and faith. I want to pose this question to both of you. What advice would you give to corporate legal departments who are undergoing changes, like similar changes that we've endured? How do you support the company's vision and still maintain who you are as the leader and as the person?
Oh, okay. Me first.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Toss it over to me.
Yeah, give me a second to think.
Well, I think it goes back to, one, keeping your integrity. I think that's number one. So not being willing to compromise on that integrity. I think change is always a constant. I mean, that's the world around us, right? I mean, if you had asked my parents when they were kids, what's the most efficient way to connect with someone, they'd tell you a telephone, you know? Now we have text message, email. I mean, we have so many different things. So change is inevitable. I think at the end of the day, people are going to be people. Change is very difficult. So to the extent that we can be transparent, equip people, right? Have them ready for change. As a leader, I want to look down that road to say, okay, I see a bump coming up. How can I prepare my team for that bump? What skills do they need to go in the next step of the evolution of this company as it changes? And so I think one of the best things that we can do is be forward-looking, try to look after your team, look after your people, equip them as best as you can, and let them know, hey, I'm here for you if you have any issues or questions.
That's great, Larry. That was really good. I agree with everything that Larry said. Some additional things. I think it's really important. It's imperative that you understand the culture of a company. You understand their vision. You understand their goals. Earlier, when I was litigating in my career, when I was at a law firm, I represented, like I said, a lot of the railroad companies, all the big ones in the country. And I remember I also did railroad litigation in addition to employment. So I really understood the railroads. I have all this railroad information in my head right now. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But I remember going and handling a case, and opposing counsel understood employment law, but they didn't understand railroads. They didn't understand the industry. And when we got ready to do stuff, when I saw that she didn't understand railroads, I was like, she's not going to be able to prevail here. And she didn't, because she did not understand the company. She only understood her area of law. And it was really a good lesson for me to understand how important it is to understand the company that you're serving, understand the industry, understanding the visions that they have, so that you can take your skill set, what you have, and align it with theirs to make sure that they are being as profitable and productive as a company can. And the great thing about Aflac, it is an ethical company. I really do feel that. And so I don't have the struggle of feeling like I have to be unethical to help serve them. So really it is to make sure that in how I operate, in the way that I do, in an ethical manner with integrity, that I am taking the time to understand the company and the goals to make sure that I can align my skill set with it.
Thank you so much. And with our last question, I want to focus on this alignment. Some people are struggling with deciding, do I stay in law firm? Do I go to that corporate environment? And both of you have played the role in both, driving value in a law firm, driving value in large companies. So what advice would you give to those people who are saying, should I go to a company like Aflac, or should I stay, make partner, and maybe equity partner and so forth?
Sure. Who do you want to go
I'm
first?
toss it to you first.
Toss it to
Answered
me?
first last time. Now it's on you.
Okay, I'll take it. So, interestingly, I've done all three. I've done government, I've done law firm, and I've done in-house, right?
Show
so I've
off.
done, well, hey, I try. But I've done all three, and each one of those, they all have pros and cons. And what I never want to do to a person who's trying to decide is try to force them into one of those buckets, right? Everybody has to really know for themselves, what do I want? What do I really want to do? I know people who love government, love the government world. The reality is sometimes in government it doesn't pay the most money, and so there's sometimes financial restrictions with that. Law firms, if you're looking for money, probably they pay very well if you can make it high enough and get a really good book of business. But there's a lot of stress on your time a lot of times at law firms. I mean, at my law firm, I worked many hours, and most people coming from a law firm do. You have your billable requirements, right? And a lot of people going into in-house, they're looking to sometimes move away from the billable hours to, and that's why they're thinking of going that path. But it's a misnomer. It's really a mistake to think that in-house is not a lot of work and a lot of time. I am working probably just as much. I just don't have to bill.
Maybe more. Maybe more.
Right, I just don't have to bill. So there's different things. I mean, if people really like to have a variety of clients and be really, do different things, that's great. And maybe a law firm is good for them. I was a litigator for 10 years, so now I don't really go into court. And if you like to go in court, and it's enjoyable, it is something I miss, going into court, doing statuses, doing trials, then, law firm is great for you. In-house, you're not really doing that, right? And you have to be able to really focus on advice and counsel, and you have to really be willing to not just give advice and walk away, but give advice and you're really partnering all the way to the end, okay? So if there's a new law, I can't just tell, HR, hey, there's a new employment law that you have to follow. I'm working with them, we're figuring out, are there new forms, is there a policy, are we gonna draft the policy, how do we implement it, is there notices to employees, and you're working and holding their hand all the way to the end to make sure that whatever the new laws or whatever needs to put in place actually works out. So there's really differences in every bucket, pros and cons for every bucket, and people just need to know for themselves what really suits their skill set and their desires.
What about you, Larry?
Ditto. That's about it for me. No, but just a few additional things is I totally agree. You have to know what you want, right? Because in-house may not fit everyone. They may desire to be in a private practice where they can either have some new skill or they may like the variety. They might like billing hours. I haven't met one yet.
I haven't met one,
Me neither.
But if you do, that's private practice is your thing. For me, it just wasn't my thing. But that doesn't mean that you work any less hard. To your point, Maisha, I think sometimes there's people may think that I may not have to work as hard because I'm in-house. No, the work is there. In fact, I think you have more skin in the game. You have a little bit more skin in the game, a lot of it. And then also, you have to be a person that wants to have a business type mind where you are really invested with the business, right? So to your point, you're collaborating, you're locking arms, you're part of strategic meetings, you have that strategic vision, and you're moving forward. So whereas before, I felt like in a private practice, I was just a stop on the road. They would make a stop. Now I'm actually on the plane with you.
Right.
So if this goes down, we're going down together. If we fly high, we're all going to fly high together. And so, know what you want, and then also just make sure that you're aware that either way, you're going to work hard, but you have to find what fits you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maisha and Larry, so much for taking time with me today and sharing and laughing. It's always a joy to be with you guys.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the honor of having us here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This wraps up this edition of Legally Speaking. Thanks to Aflac for hosting this taping. We invite you to visit gapwa.org. We'd love to hear from you to get show ideas and comments on our social media pages. I'm Randy Warren. Until next time, thanks for watching.